Why is it that the foods you thought were helping you lose belly fat might actually be the ones holding you back? You scroll through one list online that praises bananas and yogurt as superfoods for fat loss, then stumble upon another list warning you to stay far away from them. Confusing, right? Here's the strange part. Some of the exact same foods are being called both the best and the worst by different health experts. How can that be? Are they all just guessing? Or is there something deeper we're missing? Today, we're going to uncover why these contradictions exist, and more importantly, why simply having a top 10 belly fat burning foods list isn't enough. Because here's the truth. It's not just about what you eat. It's about why those foods are on the list to begin with. We'll break down the misleading claims, false logic, and popular misconceptions that keep people stuck in a cycle of eating all the right foods, yet never seeing results. So, what's the first big mistake people make when trying to burn belly fat? Let's dive in. So now that we know the real secret isn't just what is on the list, but why those foods are there, let's begin with one of the most common myths, the idea that certain foods magically burn belly fat. You've probably heard it before. Eat this superfood to melt away fat. It's a catchy headline. It sells books, but it's completely misleading. Here's the truth. Eating food doesn't burn fat. It stores fat. That's simply how metabolism works. Whenever we eat, especially foods rich in carbohydrates or sugar, our insulin levels rise. And when insulin goes up, fat storage begins. The body shifts into storing mode, not burning mode. So when does fat burning actually happen? Between meals, when you're not eating. That's the only time your body taps into its fat reserves. Any food, even a so-called fat-burning one, halts that process temporarily. Take bananas, for example. They're on many best foods lists because they contain potassium. And yes, potassium helps balance sodium levels in the body. Some argue that reducing sodium helps reduce water retention and bloating, which can make your stomach appear flatter. But here's the flaw. That's water loss, not fat loss. Sure, you might feel lighter temporarily, but it's a short-lived illusion. You're not shrinking fat cells, you're just flushing out water. Meanwhile, a medium banana packs around 20 grams of carbohydrates, including 6 grams of fructose and 6 grams of glucose. Fructose is particularly problematic when it comes to belly fat. It doesn't get processed the same way as glucose. Instead, it goes straight to the liver, and when consumed in excess, it can lead to fatty liver, which is closely linked to stubborn belly fat. Now, does that mean bananas are evil? No. They can be a healthy choice for the right person. If you're lean, physically active, young, and insulin sensitive, having a banana once in a while won't harm you. But if you're struggling with belly fat, chances are you already have some degree of insulin resistance or fatty liver. And in that case, bananas are doing more harm than good. So that brings us to the second major misconception: confusing fat with fluid. Just because your belly looks slimmer after dropping water weight doesn't mean you've lost fat. True fat loss takes more than tricking the scale for a day. What you're really doing is shedding water weight, not burning actual fat. You may step on the scale and see a drop. Your jeans might fit a little looser for the day. But the truth is that weight is temporary. The moment you hydrate again, which you should, that water comes right back. Up next, we look at a food that's often seen as a gut-friendly superhero. But is it helping your belly or just adding more confusion to the mix? Let's talk about yogurt. It's often hailed as a digestive miracle, full of probiotics, friendly bacteria, and all sorts of gut-healing benefits. On many belly fat blasting lists, yogurt shows up as a must-have. But here's the issue. They're once again confusing causes. Just like with bananas and water weight, many people mistake bloating for belly fat. Yes, yogurt might reduce bloating in some cases, but bloating is not belly fat. It's gas. It's inflammation. It's discomfort. But it's not the stubborn visceral fat wrapped around your organs. So what's the actual benefit of yogurt? Well, plain, Full-fat yogurt can indeed contain live beneficial bacteria that support your gut health. These probiotics can help balance your microbiome, potentially reducing gas and making your stomach feel flatter. Not because you've burned fat, but because you're simply not bloated. But here's the catch. Most yogurts sold today, especially the flavored ones, are packed with sugar. They may contain only a small trace of probiotics, but are loaded with 15, 20, even 25 grams of sugar per serving. That sugar becomes fuel for the bad bacteria in your gut, the very thing you're trying to reduce. So instead of soothing your belly, you're throwing gasoline on the fire. The sugar feeds the wrong microbes, increases inflammation, and spikes your insulin, again, halting any potential fat-burning process. If you do enjoy yogurt and want it to support your health, go for the plain, unsweetened, full-fat version. Add a few fresh berries, maybe a touch of stevia or monk fruit for sweetness, and you'll have a far more balanced choice. Pro tip: the more sour the yogurt tastes, the more live bacteria it probably contains. That tangy flavor means the good bacteria have eaten up more of the sugar and turned it into lactic acid, which is what gives yogurt that signature tang. So the lesson here isn't that yogurt is bad. It's that most store-bought yogurt isn't what you think it is. And again, we're not even talking about fat loss in these cases. We're talking about reducing gas, not shrinking fat cells. And that brings us to another popular item on the so-called fat-burning food lists: berries. Now don't get me wrong, berries are delicious, colorful, and full of nutrients. But the logic that some experts use to connect berries to belly fat loss is where the story starts to fall apart. So, what's the real deal with berries? Let's find out. One claim that keeps popping up is this: berries are full of antioxidants, and antioxidants help deliver oxygen to your muscles. That gives you more energy for cardio workouts, which burns fat and reveals abs. Sounds like a neat full-circle idea, but the science doesn't back it up. Here's the problem: antioxidants don't deliver oxygen. In fact, their very name tells you the opposite: antioxidants. These compounds help protect your cells by reducing the effects of oxidative stress, but they're not oxygen carriers. They don't go around your bloodstream like tiny oxygen messengers fueling your next jog around the park. If you're getting antioxidants from natural foods like berries, that's great. They're beneficial in balanced amounts, and the body uses them wisely to neutralize harmful free radicals. But popping antioxidant supplements or thinking that extra antioxidants equal extra oxygen, that's not how the body works. Even more concerning, large doses of synthetic antioxidants, especially from supplements, can actually interfere with the body's natural oxygen use. So the idea that loading up on antioxidants before a workout boosts your energy or helps you burn more fat, that's a myth. Now, let's be fair to berries. If you're going to eat fruit, berries are among the best options. They're low in sugar, packed with flavor, and rich in nutrients. In moderation, they can absolutely fit into a healthy diet, even a low-carb one. But here's the key point: they won't make you burn belly fat. That's the disconnect. Just because a food is healthy doesn't mean it has a direct fat-burning effect. And cardio, while beneficial for the heart and muscles, won't reverse the root metabolic issues that cause belly fat in the first place. Belly fat isn't just about calories in and calories out. It's often tied to insulin resistance, fatty liver, and hormonal imbalances. And working your muscles harder doesn't automatically mean you're burning fat from your liver or reversing insulin spikes. So once again, we see how a well-meaning food recommendation gets twisted by faulty logic, which leads us to the next food category that's constantly praised in weight loss circles, almost like a holy grail of dieting. You guessed it, complex carbs. Are they the heroes they're made out to be, or are we overlooking something important? Let's dig in. Complex carbs. They're everywhere on these healthy eating lists. Oatmeal, brown rice, whole grain bread. You've probably heard, it dozens of times. They're good for you because they're full of fiber, and fiber helps you lose weight. The claim is that fiber helps reduce insulin and therefore helps you lose belly fat. But here's the truth. Fiber does not lower insulin. It's not an active agent that pushes insulin levels down. What fiber does, and this is where the confusion begins, is that it slows the absorption of carbohydrates, which can lead to a less dramatic insulin spike compared to refined carbs. That's an important nuance. Saying that fiber reduces insulin is like saying wearing sunglasses reduces the brightness of the sun. It doesn't, it just softens the impact. Fiber, in this case, buffers the rise, but it doesn't make insulin levels drop below baseline or fix insulin resistance. And then there's another faulty comparison that gets tossed around like a marketing slogan. Whole grains are better than frosted flakes. Well, sure, but is that the bar now? Saying oatmeal is healthier than sugary cereal is like saying arsenic is safer than mercury. That doesn't make arsenic a health food. Being less bad doesn't make something good, yet these comparisons are used all the time to prop up foods that may not be harmful in moderation, but are far from metabolic miracle workers. Yes, complex carbs have more fiber and nutrients than refined carbs, but they're still carbs. And for people trying to reduce belly fat, especially those dealing with insulin resistance, they still stimulate insulin, and they still get converted to glucose in the body. So while they may be better than frosted flakes, that doesn't automatically make them effective tools for fat loss, especially when there are so many other options out there that are more nutrient-dense, lower in carbs, and won't send your insulin on a roller coaster ride. Next, here's a big one. A belief so widespread it's rarely questioned. If I just do more cardio, I'll burn off this belly fat. Sounds logical, right? Work out more, burn more calories, lose more fat. But when it comes to liver fat, which is often the true root cause of stubborn belly fat, cardio isn't the magic bullet people think it is. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Exercise doesn't directly reduce liver fat. Yes, physical activity is important. It boosts overall health, improves heart function, increases muscle tone, and can help regulate blood sugar. But the type of fat that accumulates around the belly, particularly visceral fat stored deep around organs like the liver, is not easily targeted through movement alone. Why? Because liver fat is a metabolic issue. It's tied to insulin resistance, excessive fructose consumption, poor dietary habits, and chronically elevated insulin levels. Running on a treadmill won't undo that. In fact, someone could be hitting the gym 5 days a week, sweating buckets, and still not see any change in their belly because their insulin is constantly elevated from their diet. And as long as insulin stays high, the body stays in fat storage mode, not fat burning mode. No matter how much you exercise, this doesn't mean cardio is useless. Far from it. It can support fat loss when combined with the right nutrition and proper metabolic support. But relying on cardio alone without addressing what's really driving your fat gain is like trying to mop up a flooded floor without turning off the faucet. So if you've been wondering why hours on the bike or in the gym haven't flattened your stomach, now you know. It's not about the workout, it's about the hormones. And speaking of misunderstood food advice, let's move into one of the most surprising and misleading examples I've come across: beans and lentils. They're often praised as nutritional powerhouses. And to be fair, they do have some benefits. They're rich in fiber, plant-based protein, and certain compounds that support gut health. But when it comes to losing belly fat, there's a big piece of the puzzle being ignored. You'll often hear people say things like, beans help feed your gut bacteria, which then produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate and acetate. And those are good for your metabolism. That part is technically true. Butyrate and acetate, especially when produced in the gut, do play positive roles in reducing inflammation and supporting digestive health. However, that doesn't mean that eating beans or lentils automatically leads to fat loss. Here's why. A half cup of beans or lentils contains 15 to 20 grams of carbohydrates, And most of those carbs get converted into glucose, which triggers an insulin response. And what does insulin do? It signals your body to store fat, not burn it. So yes, you might be feeding your gut microbiome with fiber, but at the same time, you're raising insulin, which is exactly what you don't want when you're trying to reduce belly fat. What's more, many of the studies that praise butyrate's fat-burning effects are done using isolated compounds in mice, not whole foods in humans. That's a huge leap. Feeding lab mice pure butyrate and watching their metabolism increase isn't the same as feeding people a bowl of lentils and expecting the same outcome. And let's not forget, butyrate itself gets its name because it was first found in butter. That's right. A small amount of grass-fed butter with your vegetables may give you more butyrate with zero carbs, and without triggering insulin. So while beans and lentils aren't bad foods, they're not the miracle metabolic boosters they're often made out to be, especially for people dealing with insulin resistance or trying to lose visceral fat. Next, speaking of misunderstood food advice, let's move into one of the most surprising, and honestly, most misleading examples. I've come across chocolate skim milk. Yes, you heard that right. Some nutrition sources actually recommend chocolate skim milk as a post-workout recovery drink, claiming it's the perfect combo of carbs and protein to help build muscle and burn fat. On the surface, it sounds reasonable. After all, muscles use glucose, and pairing carbs with protein can help with muscle repair. Chocolates. Plus, muscle mass burns more calories at rest, right? So by that logic, drink chocolate milk, build muscle, burn more fat. Well, here's the problem. They're not telling you the whole story. One 8-ounce, 240 milliliter glass of chocolate skim milk contains about 27 grams of sugar. That's even more than the same amount of Coca-Cola, which has about 22 grams. And yet somehow, Coke is considered junk food, while chocolate milk is marketed as a health drink. Now let's talk about what that sugar does. It spikes your blood glucose, which triggers a surge in insulin, your body's primary fat-storing hormone. Not only does this halt fat burning, but the excess sugar also contributes to fatty liver, which is one of the root causes of stubborn belly fat. And if that wasn't enough, this milk is skim, meaning they've removed the fat. And that fat, ironically, is the one thing that could have helped slow down the sugar absorption, reducing the insulin spike. Without fat, the sugar hits your bloodstream faster, making the insulin response even more intense. So what you're left with is a highly insulinogenic, sugary drink that's being marketed as fitness fuel, when in reality, it's doing the opposite of what most people trying to lose belly fat actually need. This is a classic case of calorie-focused thinking gone wrong. People are told it's low fat and low calorie, so it must be good. But they're ignoring the metabolic impact, and that's what really matters when it comes to belly fat. So before you reach for that chocolate milk after your next workout, ask yourself, are you feeding your muscles or your fat cells? The end, it's not about chasing trendy superfoods or falling for flashy health claims. Losing belly fat, and more importantly, building long-term health, starts with understanding your body. It's about choosing real whole foods that keep your blood sugar steady, support your metabolism, and leave you feeling full and energized, not bloated, spiked, or sluggish. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. But when you stop relying on hype and start listening to how your own body responds, that's when real change begins. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we've got so much more coming. Practical insights, myth-busting truths, and real strategies to help you take control of your health. One smart choice at a time. Thanks for watching. And remember, your best investment is always in your health. Your health begins with knowledge. Let's keep learning, making better choices, and living more fully. One mindful bite at a time.